Before we get started, let me read the emergency evacuation procedures. In the event of an emergency evacuation, an alarm will sound. Everyone should exit the building by way of the nearest stairwell in a safe and effective manner. If the nearest stairwell is blocked by smoke, use the other stairwell. Do not use the elevator. Once you have reached the main floor, follow the exit signs to exit the building and quickly proceed away from the building. Please be mindful of others evacuating and of emergency vehicles.
Here.
Everett. Edric. King.
Here. Okay, we do have a quorum. One thing that Marlene and I talked about before everybody got here, each of us need to tell her if we're not going to be here. That way, if she doesn't hear from us, then, and she'll put that in the minutes so that everybody knows that they're. Okay, email, memo. Okay, great. Looks like we have a large crowd tonight, but explain the process. We have items on the agenda, and Thomas will read a very brief summary of the request. And then the person, if there's someone here in favor of that request, they can come to the microphone and we'll have a discussion about that. If there's anyone here opposed to that request, we also give them a chance to speak. And then the commissioners then discuss this and we'll either decide to proceed or approve it or not approve it and go from there. So that's the process of tonight's meeting. The first item would be the approval of the minutes. We have the minutes from our January 5th meeting. Are there any changes, or do I hear a motion to approve as written?
Move to approve.
Stanley made the motion.
Second.
Brian seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous approval for the minutes. The first variance request is a variance for 110 Garrett Lane in Maryville, the Maryville Top Shop. Is there anyone here that's in favor of this request? Okay, then we have to decide, do we want to wait till someone's here in favor of it, or do we want to discuss it? What's your pleasure?
Let's discuss it, but I'd still make a move, we defer it till someone's here.
Great. I have some questions about it also, Stanley. If you look at the drawing, it's a large building with plastic on it, or some sort of fiber on the sides, correct?
Yes, sir.
The all of the slabs that are sitting out there, are they going in that?
That's my understanding, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, it can't look any worse than it does now.
It's my understanding after talking to the applicant, and so just to give you a little background, this process started as a result of a building permit for this structure. And by it being a commercial accessory building, our procedure is for the Planning Commission to review and approve a site plan. And through the course of, putting together the materials for that and reviewing the project, which ultimately the Planning Commission did approve last week, subject to the review and approval of a variance from this board. They were able to make the findings that they needed to approve the site plan, but there was one issue, and that is with the architecture of the building. And our ordinance actually requires, it has a series of design criteria for commercial or industrial buildings. And specifically with this type of building, there were a couple of things that could not be met just simply by virtue of the construction of the building, the way it's made. A couple of those things are that the side wall planes of buildings have to be staggered with changes in the surface planes, sort of break up the architectural monotony. You can't do that with this type of building. And the other thing, which this does actually get met, but it's maybe a stretch. Exterior walls visible from public roads should be constructed of at least 50% non-metal building materials. Well, obviously, as a poly type material, this is not metal, but still, it brings the whole issue into question about the architecture of the structure. And again, after talking to the applicant, and I don't want to speak for him since he's not here, but his intent with this is to get all of his slabs and all of his materials and things inside, out of the weather, and also it will allow him, he's going to pour a monolithic slab for this, and he's actually going to extend the concrete out so that he's able to run his equipment back and forth without being marred up in the mud.
Is he building that type of building just for not having to meet the construction requirements of a metal building, or is it just cheaper, or?
I think it's a more cost-effective method of doing it. I don't know that he's necessarily trying to circumvent any of our ordinances or anything like that. I think this is just the type of material, the structure of this building, and the ease of construction and everything with it. I think best suited his needs for this, because doesn't necessarily need to be a secured building or anything like that. It's not going to have any utilities. It's basically a cover.
Is it considered a temporary building or a permanent building, or how do you class a building like that?
Through the building permit process, we would treat it as a permanent structure. It had to be inspected accordingly. The lifespan of it obviously is not going to be as long as a metal building. However, I would think that the poly material could be replaced in the future if you wanted to.
It's about the same as a greenhouse, isn't it?
It's very similar to a greenhouse. In fact, that was the best comparison I could have. Is very much like a greenhouse.
The trusses, is it wood or steel?
They're steel.
So it's a steel structure with somewhat clear plastic.
Of course, steel could be tubing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I see his need to do something like that, or to get it inside, and it would be better to house it inside anyway. But if you put into context what one is wanting to accomplish on a scenic highway, how do you relate on a scenic highway of putting a greenhouse up for something other than a greenhouse? Is that something in keeping with what the
Well,
county?
you can't see this where he's putting it. You can't see it from the 321 because there's a house in front of it with a fence. The only way you can see this is to go. There's apartments there. You
So
drive
it's
in
on the
there.
back side there, not there where the granite is now?
Yeah, but the granite. If you drive in there and see the granite all scattered around there,
Okay.
and there's an apartment building behind. If you're facing the granite, the apartment building behind you, and then in between the granite and 321, there's a house with a fence. And I don't know if that's the same.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the same property or not. But, so you actually, I don't know that when I drive by there, I don't see the granite. Now you might see it once you get the building put up.
It is, in fairness, it is a fairly large structure. So I think you would probably get at least a peek of it.
Yeah. True.
But they're on the site plan. It shows where it's going to be positioned, and if you kind of orient between the aerial photo on the page before and you can sort of get a feel for more or less where it's going to be.
Yeah.
And what's hard to pick out is there's a canopy of a fairly large tree there that's actually bigger now than it was at the time of this aerial photo, and I kind of drew it out there on the site plans. You can see it. So I think that tree will block part of it, but I believe you would be able to see it from the highway, at least somewhat.
Yeah, that's right. But I guess you have a view there. That's how the house is between it, but there's not, what is that property there between what's this gonna be and the road? Is that clear? Is that property clear
Well, that,
right here?
Yes, sir, it's undeveloped.
they evidently own track 7, right beside it, that 1.5 acres, because that's where the stone are stored right now, isn't it?
It's
It's right in here.
it's on both. It's across both.
There's all kinds of slabs right in
Right.
here.
Even down on that 1.5 acre.
Well, I don't know if there's any in here or not. 'Cause
Yeah,
that tree's talking about
there's a
slab.
little road right, and they got that strung up there too.
Is it?
Well,
I think there's material stored across both
Yeah.
both 6 and 7.
Ah. Well, if that's the case, it will be visible from
yeah,
321.
it's gonna be visible.
Yeah.
I think. Well, and again, I just, little questions you wonder, when you're building, or when I build, I like to keep everything symmetrical looking, sort of. And this one, here's the main building, and here this is, but it's sort of just like it's.
Catty-corner.
It's symmetrical, or it's in line with this road, but it's not in line with the main highway. So I guess what I'm getting, a building that doesn't have the symmetry to it sort of sometimes seems like it's just thrown up with an afterthought. I don't know if that's, I'm all for him building it because he needs it, but now's the time to do all we can to help him. But nobody on the nobody on the Maryville Planning Commission had any problem with it?
This was not reviewed by the Maryville Planning
Um,
Commission.
But it's in the Maryville zone, isn't it?
Correct, but they don't review it's not in Maryville zoning, it's our zoning. So we have zoning control over the property in the urban growth boundary. Urban growth boundary, from Maryville's perspective, the only thing that they really have control over is subdivision regulations. So we have zoning, they have subdivision. Our planning commission reviewed it and they approved the site plan as far as the layout. What they couldn't give a full approval. Normally this wouldn't have come to this board, but it was necessary for it to come to this board for a variance on the architecture.
Well, given the fact that Walmart's going to be out there and there'll be a lot of growth in that whole area over the next few years,
Yes, sir.
that's my only concern. That once it's there, it's going to be there. And I just wondered if anybody thought down the road what the feeling would be to have a structure like that in an area that's going to be high growth.
This is or is not in the city of Maryville?
No, sir.
Where's the city limits in?
Back up.
Creamland,
Creamland?
that road there.
Car
Creamland.
car lots, got them 2 car lots
Yeah,
up
it's
there.
just right back.
Got there at the church.
Well, is Maryville going to annex Walmart? No.
I'm sorry?
Is Maryville going to annex Walmart?
I'm not sure. That would be a question for Maryville. I would think the tax revenue would be appealing to them, but I'm not sure.
If they would, then they would have to annex this unless they just went down the road and ballooned out, right? So
Yeah.
then that would be in the city of Maryville.
If it were annexed, it would be in the city of Maryville.
Would this pass the city of Maryville ordinances?
So, just like with us, if we change an ordinance or if we impose a new ordinance, in this case, if it didn't mesh with their zoning ordinance, it would be considered a grandfathered use, grandfathered structure.
Is it appropriate that, since when Pellissippi gets in, you can bet your dollar they're going to annex all the way to Pellissippi, which is right on over the hill. And that won't be too long in coming. Would it be appropriate just to see what the city of Maryville thought about it, since it's gonna be in their deal eventually.
That's up to y'all. If you want us to reach out to the city of Maryville and get their take on it, we certainly could do that.
I'd be in favor of that.
I would too, because it's gonna be an odd deal, and it's gonna be useful for the top shop and all, but it's gonna be an odd looking deal there, especially down the road in a few years. So that's what I'm thinking is, knowing what's gonna happen, it's okay to raise these questions now.
You familiar with McMahon's across the street?
No, sir.
They've got the big,
It's across from the Parkway Theater.
Okay, yeah, yes.
okay, so, you know, the trucks were there, and they sold out to Walmart, the trucks moved across the street, and McMahon had to move too. And he's got greenhouses there.
Mhm.
Was there any issue with somebody like that just putting up greenhouses in the county? It's on 321.
Do you know how long the greenhouses have been there?
2 years. Oh,
Has it been that long?
yeah,
Yeah, he's
they've
been there for a couple of years.
See, CNC's been over there now, just heading on their second year.
But before that, he had them out across the street. All he
I knew
did-
that.
I mean, he just moved them across the street, so.
Since a greenhouse is agriculture, does it even fall under our stuff?
That may be the exemption. I don't know. I wasn't here, 2 years ago. I don't know what process it went through, but if it is it'd have to be associated with an agricultural use, which usually means on-site production of crops. It may be, that may be the link there is if they're producing on-site, then that may be an exempted use because bona fide agricultural uses are exempt from the zoning ordinance. So maybe that's.
Well,
I'm sorry, I just don't have the familiarity with it to.
Well,
be able to give an
if
answer.
we go back to the top shop and them been grandfathered in there for what they're doing, they could automatically expand it. We're not questioning expansion, I don't think. We're questioning the type of structure.
That's correct.
Is
So they're not necessarily a grandfathered use. It is an allowable use for what they're doing in their zoning district.
Yeah.
So there's no problem with that. There was no problem, as you said, expanding with another building. You could have a whole bunch of buildings. The issue before this board is variance because he needs to be able to do what he's asking to do. He needs relief from one of our zoning ordinances that's particular to the architecture of the building.
Well-
In staff's opinion, this type of building doesn't meet those architectural requirements.
Well, doesn't the architecture, it's on the viewable side, right?
Yes, sir.
And what the architect says, it's got to look like it's a broken up building.
Correct.
Like on dollar stores that have to have windows in them or boarded up. Well, to have a different architectural look, it's just a facade, that's all they'd have to have, ain't it? To make it look like a broken up deal?
What the code says specifically, and I'll read it in here, walls and roof visible to public roads shall have changes of wall and roof planes with at least a 3-foot projection or recess, no less than every 30 feet horizontally. In addition, any of the following elements shall be integrated into walls visible to public roads and no less than 30-foot spacing, both horizontally and vertically. That includes porches, awnings, stairwells, doors, windows, chimney, changes in construction materials.
Well, it's
So
a
there's-
96-foot building, so you'd have 3 different looks in there, right? Every
Yes.
30 feet. See, that's doable, right? Just make a fake wall up there, change it every 30 feet.
Or if you put it in the middle.
Or put it in the middle and you got 2
Yeah.
different. But that's a doable deal, right? And then if it's a doable deal, then it comes back to where if you put a standard looking building in there, would it look better than a Quonset hut? A plastic Quonset hut? Quonset hut's gonna be cheaper than a metal building. So it's a cost factor, but the cost factor is not our responsibility, right? So that's my only concern. Looking down the road a few years, is will we look back on that and say, if we approve that, would we look back and say, man, I wish I hadn't have done that? So that's my discussion on it.
Any other, Ryan, you have any other discussion? Thomas, you have anything other you want to discuss?
No, sir.
So I guess we need to decide we want to approve it, disapprove it, or defer it.
Make a move, we defer it.
Stanley makes the motion that we defer. Second. Ryan seconds. Roll call. Yes means we defer.
I got something just to add to
Okay,
it.
go ahead.
Well, it's just add to it is like, I mean, when you submit this and nobody shows up, that's bothersome to me.
Okay.
Always has been. I mean, if we show up to do something, and that's why, yeah, defer is what I would rather do, but I mean, really, they need to show up on this stuff. It's, you know, that's it. I'll shut up.
No, that's fair. Okay?
Chesney,
Yes.
Hedrick,
Yes?
King.
Yes.
So this item has been deferred till next meeting.
Now, this is a fair question, isn't it? Quonset hut and all this stuff, isn't that a good, fair question to ask?
Sure. Sure. This is free speech here, this
Got it.
committee. Okay, Thomas, we have one at 440 Kensal Springs Way.
Thank you once again, Mr. Chairman. This one, the applicant is here. To give you just a little bit of background, he recently had his property surveyed, and in the course of having that property surveyed, discovered that he has a masonry freestanding fireplace the back property line, and in the course of the survey discovered it is actually within 1 foot of the property line, and by our code, an accessory structure such as this should be at least 5 feet from the property line. The applicant approached us to clear this up, make sure that there's no cloud on the title or anything like that. And he is not the original owner of the home, nor was he the person who constructed this. So he bought it with it here, which is, one of the important things you should consider in a variance is that it's through, the hardship is not created through an act of the applicant. So, with that, like I said, he's just here to clear that up, and I'm sure he's here to speak if he.
Anyone here in favor of this request? You want to speak? Give us your name, please.
I'm Richard Beerbaum.
Richard.
Beerbaum. One requesting the variance.
Anything you want to add?
No, I'm the third owner of this property, and my understanding was that it was all lined out and properly constructed and deeded properly. And I was in the process of trying to build a garage, external garage, and I wanted to make sure everything was going to be within code. And that's when I discovered that this structure was within a foot of my neighbor's property. My neighbor did provide a letter to me indicating that he was wanting to go with the variance on that. And there's nobody behind me there. If you look at where the houses are positioned, I'm sitting right here. My neighbor faces this way over here. So I'm in, his line of sight's over here and mine's over this way off to the side. So, and he comes down and shares the fire with me on a regular basis.
My first comment, I want to thank you for making a survey. Many of our problems here are folks that come in here and have not made a survey. And then once they do a survey, they find out they got a problem. So my comment to you first is thank you for initiating a survey before you got started on something else.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
It's a nice looking fireplace.
That's why I bought the property. It was my favorite spot.
So the date of the cookout is?
Any weekend.
I like them big thick ones.
The grill's only 8 feet away.
I move its approval.
Move to approve by Stanley. Second. Brian. Roll call.
Chesney,
Yes.
Frederick,
Yes.
King.
Yes.
Thank you for coming in and good luck.
Thank you so much. I
But
appreciate
We
it.
really appreciate you doing the survey.
Thank you so much.
That'd be a pity to have to tear it down.
It would. It surely would.
Yeah,
I know Mr. Dye. I talked to him today. I know him.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. When I seen his name on the email, I said, I know him.
Well, you know, the neighbor
And I talked-
doesn't complain.
Yeah. And I
And
talked-
he inherited his thing by buying it. It wasn't like, put it up and then said, oh, by the way.
I don't see that much.
Okay, other than the note that Marlene's going to put in the minutes about telling us if you're going to be absent, anything else tonight you guys need to cover with us?
Back on this Quonset, did we ask it, we run it by the city of Maryville?
Yes,
Okay,
yes. He's going, Thomas is going to do that.
I will. I'll do that, sir.
okay.
Anything else, Stanley? Brian? Thomas?
No,
Anything?
sir.
Marlene? Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn. Brian, second, Stanley.
Yep.
All in favor, aye. Aye.